Hello, this is HG Tudor, and today I'm going to explain to you with a significant example of how a mid-range narcissist uses protection against you. And I will also explain what is actually going through their mind thereafter with regard to utilizing this type of projection against you. We need to talk. Well, actually, I need to talk and you need to listen. Here, sit down. There. Okay, this isn't easy, and I know you're not going to accept what I'm going to say, but you must understand that I'm doing this for you, for us. I am concerned about, well, actually it is not just me, but I am the one who has noticed more than anybody else. So I guess that is because I am the one who cares the most, and also since I am with you more than anybody else. I'm not the only one, though. Indeed, it's because more people have expressed their concerns to me about you that I have felt moved to do something. It is a difficult subject to broach with you because I know you won't accept what I have to tell you. I've been doing some reading, actually, in order to help me to help you, because, after all, it is your best interests which I have at heart. This really troubles me to have to raise this with you, and I have nearly done it a few times previously. But I told myself that I had to give you time, and that you might work things out for yourself. You have no idea how hard it is to stand to one side and watch the person that you love behaving in this way. I can see that you are confused, and I should come to the point. It's just difficult, you see, to have to do this. Okay. I have become increasingly concerned at your behaviours. As I say, chiefly I have, but so have your family and friends, and even a few people at work. It's okay, don't worry, no, please, don't interrupt me. You need to hear me out. Nobody is judging you. We all want to help you. We want to give you all the support you need. Sorry, I'm rambling, aren't I? I suppose even now, I am hoping that the light will shine and you will tell me that you understand and you know that you need help. There, I have said it. I think you need some help. I can see that you don't understand what I mean, and your silence then, when I said that, speaks volumes about where you're at. Okay, I'm going to have to spell it out. It's your behaviour towards me and other people. It's not acceptable. You know me. I said I would always stand by you, and I will, but I cannot stand by and do nothing when I see you destroying yourself and your relationship with me, your friends, and your family. I can tell you are struggling. We all can. I'm not sure what is behind it. I am, after all, not a doctor, but I have been doing some reading, as I say, and spoken to other people, and I guess you must be losing your mind or having some kind of breakdown. I know by that shake of your head that this just isn't sinking in, so I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to just give you the brutal truth. I had hoped this would not be necessary, and that you would work with me on this, a partnership to save what we have. But the books did say that you would probably not be able to recognise what is happening to you. That apparently is one of the first things that goes when your mental health is affected. You cannot see the problem yourself, and that is why you keep doing as you do. It's called insight, I believe. It's not your fault. Well, it is, because you're the one who's doing it, but it isn't because I'm sure you don't mean for these things to happen. I know you're a good person, really. I've seen that, and what has been happening recently must be a consequence of some kind of stress or something. I do know that your drinking doesn't help, though. Look, there's no good narrowing your eyes and shaking your head when I mentioned that. I checked the recycling bin, and I counted at least 20 bottles of wine for this fortnight, and there were 3 vodka bottles in there. No, don't point at me. I barely drink, maybe the odd glass of wine with dinner. But you really have been caning it. What's that? I put the bottles there. Don't be silly, why would I do that? Why would I waste good wine by emptying bottles and putting them in the recycling? That doesn't make any sense, does it? No, you've been drinking them. I can see you're struggling to remember, and that's part of the problem. Whatever it is that's wrong with you, it affects your memory. I've seen it. How many times have you asked me where your car keys are or where the remote control for the television is? Numerous times. And they're always in the same place. Always. We keep this house tidy, don't we? And yet you're asking me where something is when it's always in the same place. I can imagine that must be a bit frightening, but don't worry. I'm going to look after you. We all will. You see, I have already met with your 2 best friends and family, and we agreed that you should spend some time in hospital. Money's not an issue, as we want the best possible care for you. and I suspect that the good doctors will know what to do with you, and if you have to stay there for a while, well, don't worry. I'll keep this ship sailing. I've plenty of people who will rally around and give me a hand, so I don't want you to worry. It's for the best. You see, you've been losing your temper so readily and turning into someone I don't know. This rage. I don't know where it comes from, but all of a sudden you just explode and then you start trying to blame me for things that you have done. It's not very nice. And I try to brush it off, but after a while there's only so much a person can deal with. Do you remember last week when you accused me of switching off the oven when you were making some food, but then you realised that you had never switched it on? Yes, I can see in your eyes that you remember now. You accused me repeatedly of doing it, and even though I explained how it could not have been me because I was busy on a call in study, you insisted that I had done it. On you went, jabbing your finger at me, and all because you are losing your mind. I try not to blame you for the horrible things that you say. I do think you become someone else, and you do not realise what you are doing, because you never say sorry afterwards, and that does hurt me. Your friends say you're distant with them. They feel like they do not know you anymore, and they are more worried about you, well, and hurt as well. But once I began explaining to them your catalogue of domestic misdemeanours, well, they were very understanding and sympathetic. They agreed something needed to be done, and they have supported me making inquiries about where we can get you treated. It's fine, honestly. Don't worry about so many people knowing about what has happened. There isn't the same stigma these days with such problems. Everybody has been most supportive of me. They understand how difficult it has been for me in dealing with you these past few months, and they have said that if I need anything, I am only to ask. It is so good to know that you have that support network in place. Your family are worried about us both, actually, but they know that I am only doing the best that I can for you, and that sometimes one has to show some tough love. I don't know how long it will be for, but they will assess you first of all, which will probably take a couple of weeks, I should imagine, and we shall see where you go from there. No, I don't think you're crazy. Goodness me, not at all. It's just something temporary, I'm sure. But it's really gone too far after, well, I suppose the less said about that incident last Friday, the better. What incident? Really? You know when you broke all the window panes in the greenhouse? No, that wasn't me, it was you. Hey, look, I'm trying to help. There's no need to become aggressive. Do you see, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm trying to help you, and you start reacting. Look, I'll ring Lee up, shall I? He saw you and helped me sort you out. Do I have to ring him? You know he'll back at what I'm saying, don't you? After all, it's the truth. Just calm down. Jesus, this is why I haven't raised this with you sooner, because of how you would react. But to be frank, I've had enough. And it's precisely this aggression and nastiness and your complete failure to ever admit that you're wrong which has been driving me to despair. Just calm down, will you? It wasn't me. It was you. Stop shifting the blame onto me. That isn't fair. If you keep going on, I'm going to call people. Do you really want to put on another performance for them? What do I mean, another one? You just don't get it, do you? Maybe you are worse than I even realised. Good God, do you really not remember what you did at the party? It was so embarrassing. I'd rather not think about it. I didn't know where to put myself, and neither did the person you were all over. I tried to smooth it over, blame it on medication and such like. But the looks I got told me all I needed to know. What do you mean it was the other way around? Will you please stop doing this? You have to accept responsibility for your actions. This has gone on far too long. Far too long. Ah, there's the doorbell. That'll be the people from the hospital. I've packed a bag for you. Don't look so alarmed. They're here to help you and to give me a break from all this crazy. It's going to be all right, I promise. Just promise me one thing, that you will try to get better for both our sakes, yes? I don't want to be driven crazy too. With this speech, the mid-range narcissist is engaging in significant projection. Is it calculated? Well, there is a degree of calculation in terms of making arrangements to have people from the hospital attend to the victim. There's also calculation in the sense of engaging the assistance of other people and talking to them about the fact that the victim is perceived as being ill. However, the narcissist has not sat down as a mid-range narcissist and thought to himself, I know, I will project my behaviours onto the victim for the purposes of making that individual feel crazy, feel mad, feel like they're losing their mind. The mid-range narcissist does not do that. This is an instinctive reaction that is as a consequence of the defence mechanism that is his narcissism. He regards the behaviour of the victim as such that she is seeking to usurp his control. This is his perception because of his narcissistic perspective. Accordingly, when he behaves in a way which has troubled the victim and she reacts to it, he sees her reaction as the start, not the response. Accordingly, his narcissism blinds him to his own actions, and he can see that he has done nothing wrong. Instead, from his perspective, the start of the process is when the victim reacts, and therefore, from the narcissist's perspective, he thinks and truly believes that the responses of the individual, of the victim, are not provoked by him, not caused by him, that they have occurred of their own accord because this is the personality of the victim. The narcissism also causes him to invent events and rewrite history. So, where he talked about the incident with the greenhouse, his narcissism caused him to believe that this was done not by him, for it was him that smashed the panes of glass in the greenhouse, but his narcissism caused him to believe that it was the victim. Similarly, where he projected about the victim flirting and being all over somebody at a party, it was the narcissist that was doing this, but again, his narcissism blinds him to the event, effectively deleting it from his mind and rewriting history to cause him to project it and seriously believe that these are the behaviours of the victim. This is why this almost holier-than-thou approach that is adopted by the mid-range narcissist seems so convincing. It is because he is convinced as to his virtues, he is convinced as to the goodness of his actions, and cannot understand that when the victim tries to suggest that it is him that has the problem, that it is him that smashed the window panes, that it is him that flirted with the guest, his narcissism has to reject this. It rejects it by refusing to acknowledge that it ever took place. It rejects it by projecting and saying it was that person. His narcissism rejects it by also saying, you can't see your problem, can you, victim? You can't see the issue here. You are the problem. And understandably, the real and genuine confusion of the victim who says, I didn't do it, it was you, and I don't understand why you're saying that it is me, causes the narcissist to think that the victim is denying responsibility for it, because in his world, his narcissism causes him to believe that they actually did all of these things. You will also see in this example from the mid-range narcissist the repeated reference to self. This manifests mainly in two ways. The first is by talking about how good a person the individual is, how he's only trying to do the right thing for the victim. Again, he truly believes that this is the case, and this is part of his facade management, which is also instinctive. Within that, and talking about himself, he also talks about how he has to, how he feels bad, how he feels that he can't take the behaviour any longer. Again, this is in essence a pity play. He utilises that in order to provoke the victim to feel guilty for making the narcissist feel bad, but he also utilises it with regard to third parties by smearing the victim about their supposed behaviour, their ongoing craziness, but also saying how bad it is to him and how he is trying to help and he's put up with it for such a long time in order to draw sympathy fuel from those who are listening. His behaviour also, in terms of the way that he makes repeated allegations against the victim, is born out of his belief that this is correct. Where he talks about her inability to remember where items were, those events occurred, but once again they occurred as a consequence of the behaviour of the narcissist through his gaslighting of that individual. Again, that gaslighting was not calculated, but will have been a response of the narcissist's twin lines of defence, arising out of the narcissist's perspective. He moved the car keys, but his narcissism does not recall that he did, and when the victim has complained about being able to find them, he immediately, as part of his defence, claims that they were never moved in the first place, because his narcissism causes him to forget that they were, and to assert that there is a problem with the victim, because they were always in the same place, and she just cannot remember. You will see also that there is repeated mention of speaking to other people. In some instances this will have occurred, in others these are lies, and the narcissist, again, believing it to be true as part of the instinctive narcissistic response, claims that he has spoken to those people. If the victim was to happen to speak to those individuals who said that they had not been consulted by the narcissist, and the victim were to raise that with the narcissist, again his defence mechanism would kick in to deny that that was the case, to further confuse the victim. And if the victim was able to produce some credible evidence that it had not occurred, then the narcissist would fall back on his second line of defence, namely deflection, projection, blame-shifting, word salad, lashing out in some way, in order to protect his superiority as a consequence of the provision of this challenge fuel. The narcissist actually believes that he's a good person. He believes that he has been badly hurt by this individual, and he truly believes that he's doing the right thing, and cannot understand any criticism that the victim might have for him. Of course, his narcissism means that he's blinded as a mid-range narcissist to seeing that he is the problem, that he is the one that has been causing all of these difficulties, that he is the one that has behaved in the ways that he is projecting onto the victim. He cannot be persuaded of it. The defence mechanism that is his narcissism is so absolute and total that any attempt to do so will always come up against the narcissist's twin lines of defence, and therefore any attempt to persuade, to explain, to reason with the narcissist is doomed to failure. Of course, many people do not realise that that is the case, and thus they become embroiled in trying to persuade and trying to reason with the narcissist to get them to see that they are the problem and it is not the victim. Of course, as they become increasingly frustrated, bewildered, confused and upset by the apparent intransigence of the narcissist, that only plays into the narcissist's hands by appearing hysterical, by being accusatory, by losing one's temper. And all that does is reinforce the narcissist's allegations, and of course causes a problem should a third party be witnessing the behaviour also, because they will see the calm, apparently caring, apparently concerned narcissist and the somewhat hysterical and upset victim. Accordingly, third parties would indeed side with the narcissist to agree that the victim is the one with the problem. Whether narcissist says that he's sorry about what he's doing, that he feels bad for it, all of that are lies, and that again is purely the narcissistic instinctive response, explaining that to make it appear, because of cognitive empathy, that he does care. He does not. He's not sorry for what he's doing. He merely says those things as a mid-range narcissist for the purposes of maintaining his control over this individual, for drawing fuel from them. In this instance, by suggesting the individual needs help and packing them away, clearly the individual, who may well be the intimate partner primary source, namely the spouse or partner or girlfriend, cohabitee of the narcissist, is in devaluation. And this may be a disengagement. Alternatively, it might be, in effect, pushing and isolating the victim for a period of time which allows the narcissist to engage with other sources that he's courting, perhaps a candidate intimate partner secondary source, more fully, because the intimate partner primary source has been pushed out of the way. So, this is a detailed example of how a mid-range narcissist projects against the victim by suggesting that they are unwell, and also explains precisely what is behind that, and the thought process and the extent of the awareness of the mid-range narcissist.